In this video, I'm going to talk about motorbike licenses in Vietnam. Topics to unpack include: what license do you need in Vietnam for driving a motorbike? International driver's permits 1968 versus 1949 versus 1926. ASEAN license or Asian license, I don't know how you pronounce it. Using 50cc motorbikes to get around the rules, and then insurance companies back home. There's no insurance in Vietnam, so specifically back home. To get started, I must first disclaim that this topic is always changing. I can't edit videos after the fact. For the latest information, you need to visit our blog articles linked above. And also make sure you check out the audio file at the top of that blog page. I can update audio files quite easily, so that will usually be up to date. This video might not be. Last thing, there are things I can't say on camera, but I can cleverly word into blog articles. I recommend you listen to the audio and read the blog article in detail to get my British nuances of what I am actually trying to say. This video is just glossing around the edges of the topic. Okay, so let's get going. To ride legally in Vietnam, you need to have a Vietnam driver's license or a motorbike license from back home combined with an international driver's permit. You cannot get a Vietnamese driver's license as a tourist. You can as an expat. But this video is for tourists, so let's close that topic here. Car licenses or any other random license you may have does not mean you can drive a motorbike in Vietnam. Okay, so you have a motorbike license back home, now you need an international driver's permit. First, we need to understand, what is the international driver's permit? In a nutshell, the international driver's permit is supposed to act as a translation or standardization of your license for the local authorities to understand. To stop myself having to say international driver's permit 1,000 times, I will from now on talk about it as an IDP. And for reference, there are people out there that talk about international driver's licenses. These don't exist. What they actually mean is IDP, International Driver's Permit. There are 3 different versions or treaties, and the countries need to be a member of the treaty for it to be recognized. It is a pile of nonsense, but there you go. So for example, England belongs to the 1968 and 1949 Convention. The USA, Australia and New Zealand belong only to the 1949 Convention. Vietnam belongs only to the 1968 Convention. You can look these up really easily by typing Wiki International Driver's Permit into Google. Now with that information, we can see that British people, myself, can drive legally in Vietnam with a British motorbike license and an international driver's permit from England. I am definitely good to go. An American, on the other hand, cannot drive legally. They have the motorbike license in the States, but unfortunately, they belong to the wrong IDP convention. Don't give up hope there though. Let's break this down some more. Not all is lost. The first thing I'm going to do is talk about something no one else on the internet or blogs has ever talked about before. We can look up the conventions online through the official treaties.un.org website. If you look carefully, we can actually see that Vietnam belongs to both conventions, both the 1969 and the 1949. In summary, on the internet, in terms of content written in English from the official treaty website, Vietnam belongs to both treaties. Unfortunately, official sources in Vietnam written in Vietnamese would suggest that Vietnam does not belong to both versions. They only belong to the 1969 version. I am no lawyer, but I have been told these treaties need to be ratified or something. So this scenario and ambiguity is actually plausible. The other side of the story, of course, Vietnam being Vietnam, is that whoever wrote up the official government documents just left off the 1949 version and slapdash the paperwork. I really can see that to be a thing here. And then it just gets copied and pasted around the internet and becomes a fact. Okay, so you Americans and Aussies and a bunch of other countries can't legally drive in Vietnam, at least according to the Vietnamese papers. What does this really mean though? Well, within Vietnam, the police are not particularly clued up on this topic. and it is very unlikely and very rare that they will pick up on the fact that your IDP is the wrong version. However, in places like Haiyang, the police have been known to do this. I would like to emphasize though, no customers or tourists have been briefed on the information that I just gave above. And I do wonder if printing these treaties off might actually tackle the situation. Having said that, they are not going to throw you in jail or take the bike off you for this paperwork error. They might use it as a weapon to fine you though. I have said in recent blog articles that you should be anticipating around $250 of police fines when you are traveling Vietnam. This is regardless of the fact that you are driving 100% legally or completely illegally, no license at all, or in the sort of grey zone that Americans and Australians and other such countries find themselves in. Budgeting 250 American dollars of fine money doesn't necessarily mean that you will spend this money or that you will get stopped by the police at all. I just think it's a good mindset to have. Back to the IDP story. So if Vietnam does not recognize the 1949 IDP, is it still worth getting? And the answer to this is an absolute yes. Even if it is the wrong version, it is so helpful in all scenarios to have the IDP because it shows at least an attempt to be following the rules. It is an ambiguous and confusing situation, and to fall for this trap is, sort of treated with some sympathy here. What does this all mean for insurance companies though? The IDP, whatever version you have, is helpful when dealing with the police in Vietnam. However, even if you are driving with no license at all, you are not going to be thrown in jail here. The motorbike won't even be confiscated down to the licensing issue. Other stuff can cause it to get confiscated like drink driving, but specifically not the license issue. You will be fined and sent on your merry way again. I must make it clear that I do not endorse driving with no license. But the facts are, in some ways, the issue with all these technicalities is not on the Vietnamese side, because after some money exchanging hands, you will be sent on your merry way again. It is on the insurance side. People want to know if their insurance back home is going to be invalidated or not due to this IDP technicality. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of driving illegally here with no license at all. As I said, you can sort of get away with it, but if you have a major crash, things can get messy. I'm going to leave it there. What I want to focus on is the people who have valid motorbike licenses and an IDP, in particular, the wrong version of the IDP. For insurance back home to be valid, you must be driving legally in the country you are visiting. What I will say here is that Tigit has had no problems dealing with minor claims with Australian insurance companies. I don't know why it is the Aussies that seem to keep crashing, but they do. The Australian insurance companies pay out super easily, it would seem. That's cool. However, we have never had to deal with a major claim at Tigit, and I simply don't know to what extent an insurance company would investigate something like the IDP versions on a major claim. This is also why I think understanding the treaty website and the very fact that Vietnam is listed to belong to both versions provides you with a lot of ammunition to be able to defend yourself against an insurance company when investigating a major claim. Only you can decide the risk here though. I can't make that decision for you. Moving on to online IDPs. This is another area of phenomenal ambiguity and confusion. You see, there are plenty of websites out there that allow you to buy online IDPs. Even Tigit will recommend one to our clients. These do help when traveling Vietnam and dealing with the police. Again, even if it's the wrong version. A common situation is that someone is already traveling the world, they have a real motorbike license, but they can't go home to get an IDP. So this is where the online IDP comes into play. Unfortunately, if you look, for example, at the British government website when looking at how to get an IDP, you can only actually buy them when you are in the UK, meaning that as soon as you leave the UK, technically, you can't get an IDP anymore. So we can look up Trustpilot reviews on these online IDP websites and we can see the general feedback is overwhelmingly positive. They do work. However, there are negative reviews. Usually it seems to depend on which country the person has traveled to. Some countries will state that these online IDPs are fake and not authentic. Look, Vietnam is definitely not one of these countries that would pick up on such a thing. But I do think you should be aware that online IDP websites might not necessarily be 100% authentic. This could be down to where you are from on whether they are authentic or not. So for example, British people, the British government website says you need to be in England to get one. But for example, a Spanish person, I don't know what the policy is over there. I just don't know. What I am doing is raising the issue to you. I am not a lawyer and I'm in no position to say what is real or what is fake. Just be wary of it if you are pondering your insurance validity. Right, so that's basically the IDP topic sorted, but I didn't talk about the 1926 version. Vietnam and most major countries that I'm talking about here don't belong to this version, so we can just move on. The ASEAN or Asian license, I have no idea how you say it, is another area of mind-blowing confusion. This is basically a group of Southeast Asian countries that have signed some treaty together to recognize each other's licenses. It is common for expats living in Thailand or Singapore to ask about the ASEAN thing. Look, all the paperwork is in foreign languages and I can't get my head around it any more than you can. I'm pretty confident in saying that the ASEAN license is valid here, at least it is in terms of the police in Vietnam. Same story goes though with the IDP staff and insurance companies. I have no idea what happens if an insurance company comes sniffing around on a major claim. For routine Vietnam travel, from where I sit, you're good to go. So let's wrap this video up and talk about 50cc motorbikes. I have no idea where this has come from, but January 2025 is the month of everyone emailing about 50cc motorbikes. Did some famous vlogger make some nonsense video or something about traveling Vietnam on a 50cc? I just don't know. Look, it is true. You can drive 50cc or below motorbikes in Vietnam legally with no license. However, a true 50cc motorbike is not going to get up any hill, let alone a travel across the entire country. What the locals do is upgrade the 50cc motorbike to a Chinese 100 or 110cc engine. This costs around 50 USD to do, cost price, and that's no joke. All you are doing is landing yourself in exactly the same ambiguous situation as what I was talking about with IDPs. If an insurance company comes sniffing around and they figure out that your 50cc motorbike was actually 100cc, do you think they are going to cover you or not? Do you also think that the Vietnamese police are dumb enough not to recognize a 100cc motorbike? You can dream on there, nice idea. I suppose you can play the story of innocent foreigner who believed they were on a 50cc. But yeah, in general, again, nice idea, but forget about it. I hope this video has been helpful and thanks for watching.